golden age of Japanese sports cars, one machine dared to go further: AWD, twin turbos, a retractable hardtop, and more tech than a spaceship. This wasn't just a car, it was Mitsubishi's wildest dream. And their boldest gamble. So what made it so special? First, the specs were insane for the early 90s. The VR-4 came with a 3.0-liter twin-turbocharged V6 engine, pumping out around 320 horsepower and 315 lb-ft of torque. All of that was sent to all four wheels through a 6-speed manual transmission. But that's just the beginning. This wasn't just a fast car, it was packed with tech that wouldn't become common for years. The 3000GT VR-4 had all-wheel drive, all-wheel steering, an adaptive suspension, and even active aerodynamics. Yes, in the 90s, this thing had a spoiler that moved depending on speed and driving mode. It also had a front air dam that lowered at higher speeds to improve downforce. The engineers clearly weren't interested in building a basic sports car, they wanted to flex every piece of tech they had. And then came the Spyder, the convertible version of the VR-4. This wasn't just a soft top. Mitsubishi worked with ASC, American Sunroof Corporation, to create a fully retractable hardtop. At the press of a button, the roof folded itself into the trunk like something out of a Bond movie. In 1995, that was absolutely mind-blowing. Only a handful of cars on Earth had that kind of roof tech, and none of them were Japanese sports cars. The Spyder took the already high-tech VR-4 and made it even more exclusive, futuristic, and expensive. Only around 1,000 units of the VR-4 Spyder were ever made. That makes it one of the rarest JDM icons of all time. And at the time, it was also one of the most expensive Japanese cars sold in the US, costing well over $60,000, more than a Corvette or Porsche 911 back then. But while the price scared off many buyers, the few who did get one basically drove a spaceship. And today, those who held on to their Spyder VR-4s own one of the most over-engineered, over-the-top, and surprisingly luxurious sports cars of its era. But the story doesn't end there. The 3000GT VR-4 Spyder wasn't just a product, it was a symbol of Mitsubishi's ambition during the 90s. Back then, Mitsubishi wanted to prove they could go toe-to-toe with the best from Japan, Europe, and even America. And instead of following trends, they decided to build something different, something that blended GT comfort with high-tech madness. Let's talk performance. While its 0 to 60 miles per hour time of around 5.4 seconds was quick for its time, it was the way the car delivered power that made it unique. The twin-turbo V6 gave it a smooth but forceful acceleration, and the all-wheel drive system ensured traction in all conditions. You could take sharp corners in the rain without losing confidence. The four-wheel steering, while strange to some drivers, made the car feel more nimble than its size suggested. And yes, it was heavy, weighing in at over 3,800 pounds. But that weight was balanced out by the sheer grip and confidence it gave the driver. The Spyder added even more weight due to the retractable roof mechanism. But here's the twist, it didn't ruin the driving experience. In fact, many owners said the open-top version felt even more unique, because it brought in fresh air and engine sounds, letting you fully experience that turbocharged growl. And even with the roof down, the car didn't rattle or feel flimsy. That says a lot about the engineering quality. Inside the cabin, the 3000GT VR-4 Spyder felt like a mix of sports car and luxury cruiser. Leather seats, power everything, and a surprisingly advanced digital climate system made it feel upscale. The dashboard was driver-focused, and the pop-up headlights added a touch of 90s flair. Even the gauge cluster looked futuristic back then. This wasn't a stripped-out racer, it was a full-featured grand tourer with serious performance chops. But here's where the story takes a bittersweet turn. Despite all its strengths, the 3000 GT VR-4 Spyder was simply too expensive and too complicated for mass success. Maintenance wasn't cheap, the weight turned off purists, and Mitsubishi's brand image didn't carry the same cachet as Toyota or Nissan. In the US, sales were slow. Production ended after just 2 years. And as the late 90s rolled in, the tuner scene shifted toward lighter, simpler cars, like the RX-7 or the Civic Type R. The VR-4 Spyder didn't quite fit into that world. Still, in hindsight, the car was years ahead of its time. Today, many of the features that seemed overkill, like all-wheel steering and active aero, are now common in performance cars. And the idea of a hardtop convertible with twin turbos and all-wheel drive? That sounds like something Audi or BMW would make today, not Mitsubishi in 1995. Now, in the modern collector market, the VR-4 Spyder is finally getting the respect it always deserved. Clean examples are selling for big money, and enthusiasts are realizing how rare and special it really is. In a world full of simplified, mass-produced sports cars, the 3000 GT VR-4 Spyder stands out as a wild experiment that somehow worked. It was Mitsubishi at its boldest, a company unafraid to build a car that didn't make sense on paper but made perfect sense to drive. So was it peak insane Japanese engineering? Absolutely. The 3000 GT VR-4 Spyder was a rolling showcase of 90s tech and design. It dared to be different. And it left a legacy that's only now being fully appreciated by those who understand what it truly was, a forgotten legend that never deserved to be forgotten. Today, the Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR-4 Spyder is more than just a rare car, it's a collector's dream with a cult following. Most people didn't pay attention to it when it first came out, but now it's one of those cars that makes jaws drop at car meets. Why? Because it represents a time when automakers weren't afraid to push boundaries, even if it meant taking risks that didn't make financial sense. Finding one in good condition today is tough. Many were driven hard, and their complex tech systems mean that neglected models are expensive to repair. But for those lucky enough to own a clean VR-4 Spyder, it's like having a time capsule from a more ambitious era of car design. You press a button, the hardtop folds back, and suddenly you're back in the 90s, surrounded by turbo lag, analog gauges, and the soft hum of engineering confidence. Interestingly, younger car fans who grew up watching Fast and Furious or playing Gran Turismo are now hunting these rare gems. They've seen the Supras and RX-7 skyrocket in price, and now they're looking for what's next. The Spyder VR-4 fits that bill perfectly: rare, fast, packed with tech, and completely different from anything else out there. The car's value has been climbing too. A few years ago, you could find one for under $30,000. Today, clean examples are selling for over $60,000, with pristine showroom models going even higher. It's clear, enthusiasts are finally realizing that this wasn't just some strange Mitsubishi experiment, it was a tech masterpiece wrapped in a grand touring body. And here's the best part, it still turns heads. Whether it's parked next to modern Lambos or vintage Ferraris, people walk over and ask, "What is that?" Because they've never seen anything like it. And probably never will again. The Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR-4 Spyder wasn't perfect, but it didn't have to be. It was different, brave, and beautifully over the top. Would you add the 3000 GT Spyder to your dream garage, Or is it just too much? Tell us what you think.